Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. With your host, Dapper Data.
So what are y'all, so we talk about data science. We just talked about how the robots and stuff, may take over, may not, programming and all that good stuff or whatever, But, for all the people that are very, very technical, right? Or even the people that's looking to get into programming and stuff, they may want to hear from the expert like you, like Bryan and Tyrell, to be able to say, well, hey, what are top three languages from you all and why? So Tyrell, man, what's your top three languages, your programming languages, and why do you like those languages?
So personally, my favorite language is Java. I've been using it probably for the last 7 years straight. So, so yeah, Java, there's always gonna, or at least right now, there's gonna be a lot of Java jobs because a lot of applications, Java's been around for like 20, 25 years now. So a lot of applications have been written in Java, so that, they need to be maintained or at least migrated. You're gonna need to, understand what it's doing in Java. Right. Especially as, the developers who originally developed it are retiring and won't be there to, walk you through what's going on. Also, you have the Android operating system, which is written in Java. So probably half or a little less than half and the devices, at least in the States, are probably Android. So, mobile development will be around for a while. And then, with big data, machine learning, AI, you have, Python. That's, starting to rise up the ranks. Actually took a Python class probably like 5 or 7 years ago, something like that, just out of boredom. And yeah, it was pretty easy to learn. I had experience with Perl before that, and I thought it was pretty similar to Perl. But yeah, with AI and ML coming up, Python's probably a good place to start.
So are those your two? You don't recommend Perl for anybody? You don't like Perl like that?
I used to love it because it could be difficult to maintain, but I always found it interesting to see some difficult to maintain code and figure out what it was doing. Yeah. Or at least try to figure out what it was doing.
Yeah. What about you, Bryan? What's your top languages and why?
Yeah. Of course, I was going to piggyback off of Tyrell. Java, it's what I've it's what I've come up on. It's what I've been brought up on. It's I guess a well-established language, object-oriented, bunch of support in the tech community. Bunch of APIs. It's used a bunch of places. It's still relevant. They're constantly making updates to it. You can find a lot of resources online to try to become familiar with it and debug whatever tools you have that use it. Things like that. I'm gonna side with Python as well. I think it's definitely a good language for someone new. Coming into the field to learn. It's an interpreted language, so it's kind of super easy to set up. Just run it, code and run it. Simple as that. It has a bunch of support in the community. Just like I think Tyrell mentioned, machine learning, AI. Python is used with big data. Anything you can think of, there's support for Python for it. I think Python may even have more support than Java itself.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Yeah, I personally think so. I don't have any empirical evidence that can prove it, but I think Python, there's a larger community of people that use Python, and the reason I say that is because people that aren't necessarily programmers use Python a lot of times, you know what I mean, think about data scientists,
Mm-hmm.
or even what is this? Not software engineers. What's the other ones?
Data engineers or
Yeah, people that write scripts and maintain networks, system engineers. There we go. A lot of them, a lot of times, these people use Python to do whatever it is, and believe it or not, a lot of times that's a segue for them to get into software engineer programming in general, just from them learning Python and stuff like that. I think my third would be, JavaScript. I mean, everything. If you look at a lot of front end tools, most of them are, if not all, are JavaScript based. JavaScript, TypeScript. You've got Angular, React, Vue. The list goes on. Even things like jQuery and stuff like that is all JavaScript based. So if you're thinking of getting into like front end development, then JavaScript you can't go wrong with JavaScript. So those are my three.
Yeah, those are dope, man. I think I side with y'all definitely for Python, because I feel like Python is just easiest, dynamic, being able to, I think I've had to deal with some high performance like algorithms, or like some stuff where I need a lot of like machine learning done.
Mm-hmm.
And I had big data, right? Like a lot of data and I had to process through that. So, and I'm only speaking from a data science perspective because I know you all have done with more and that, a little bit. And so you're speaking more from a general purpose perspective as well, which is good because a lot of people out here who listen, they're programmers. They might be trying to get into data science. So they're like, hey, why not use Python? Because it's general purpose and data science as well. So they can kind of learn both, So I definitely agree with y'all with that. I probably put R programming for me personally at the top of the list. It's not as easy as Python to me, but because I knew some of the foundational stuff, and of course nowhere near as y'all, but because I knew some of the foundational stuff of programming, when I got into R, I was like, oh, this is easy for me for data science and stuff because it helps with a lot of the statistical and like the graphics and stuff. You can do graphics in there, but it's really for statistics. If you care about the z-test score, the z-test score sample test and all that crap, you getting into that, that's what R is like focused on that. Scala, I think as well, is focused on that as well. And also SQL language as well. And honestly, believe it or not, SQL is probably one of, if not the most popular language for data science right now.
Yeah,
because it's doing the querying and the editing information that's stored in like those databases, those relational databases and stuff,
Yeah, I think SQL is, for lack of a better term, is one of those languages that gets almost grandfathered in. Like
right.
a lot of these big data tools will fall back on a SQL interpreter or something like that. Just because everybody's used to these relational databases and using SQL. You think about it. You've got HiveQL. You've got any language. It'll have a QL, but it's always a SQL-like language. And I guess that's just because of the popularity and the fact that a lot of people are used to it. So it's just easier for people to kind of convert over.
Right. Would you say that's a basic language? Would you say that's a basic language that everybody should at least know? Like
SQL?
SQL?
Absolutely. I think so. Right now, definitely. If you would add a fourth, and especially if you're talking about data science, then SQL in general is something I think most people should become familiar with. So yeah.
Right. So where do y'all see programming roles? I think we talked a little bit about that on the when we were talking about will programming take over. But where do y'all see programming roles in the future? With AI and ML taking over. Just to highlight that, for a short period of time, I just want to, because I want everybody in the audience to, the people who are scared probably, and people who are not scared, about programming and stuff. I want them to, see through your mindset, because I know when I look at you two, it doesn't matter, right? You got developers out here that come along. You got AI come along. You're like, hey, look, I'm going to get mine regardless. That's how you carry it. I mean, hey, it's not like everybody else who doesn't take advantage of the opportunities or whatever it is, who doesn't just take that, who doesn't swim, right? You got sink or swim mentality. Everybody who doesn't just swim, right? Those people and people who sink, give them some hope, right? Where what role could they possibly play in that data science realm, right? When AI takes over or if ML takes over, right? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a good question.
And I'm thinking more of like the programmer, right? I mean, like the programmer perspective, like do you see yourselves vetting that do you think that they would ever get to the point where they won't allow a human to actually vet the software that's being produced, maybe?
No, I think there'll always be a place. I hope, let me change that. I hope there's always a place where a human is there to vet.
Nah, man, make those bold statements. Like, there will never be, because we need to record, we're recording this, make the bold statements, because one day we're going to come back and be like, Bryan said that.
I'm speaking on my own personal beliefs. I personally hope that there is always some human intervention with anything, especially with all this automated technology going on. Because again, it's going to be pretty scary if not. But yeah, as far as roles for I mean, I would suggest someone. I would say this is what I would suggest. I actually just recently had a conversation. Actually, today had a conversation with somebody who's getting ready for their last year in college. Definitely look into big data now. Try to get internship because this is where it is. I mean, it's almost ubiquitous now. Like everywhere, we've been around for so long, and I mean we as in just humans in general, we have so much data now that big data may not even be called big data in the future. It'll just be called data because it'll become the norm. You know what I mean?
Oh, right,
so
right.
We might as well get used to it, understand the tools, understand the technology now, and try to make your place, in it. Like try to get some foundation in it so that when that time comes and you get that interview or your current job shifts into using these new technologies you're already familiar with, and you have no worries. You know what I mean? It's definitely a technology that for a newcomer who's used to these gigabytes and maybe petabytes of data, it's definitely something to get used to. I'm not going to say a paradigm shift, but it's almost a paradigm shift in your thinking. There's a lot of concurrency, a lot of parallelization, a lot of things that you've just got to become familiar with. You've got to understand. And why not? Why wait? Just get into it now. I mean, that's where the world's going anyway.
Right. That's a great point, man. What's your thoughts, Tyrell?
I mean, so the future. I mean, I think in the immediate future, we don't have anything to worry about. Probably not, in our career or our lifetime. I would say, I guess the equivalent of career time.
Yeah.
But
well, I plan to live forever, so.
Me too. Sorry, Tyrell.
So I think initially, when AI and ML starts to take over more tasks, I would say, that are currently being done by humans. Maybe developers will start, building applications to take advantage of this new AI, or building platforms on top of the AI, things like that. But I mean, if AI starts writing code itself, maybe we'll just become maintainers of hardware.
Yeah. And I
think there'll always be something though.
I think that's a great point, man. I think it's okay, right? I mean, I think it's okay to. I don't think this generation. Who knows, man? Stuff is moving fast. Sometimes it moves slow, and you be like, what's going on? But by the time we're in our mid-30s now, oh man, mid-30s, man. Let's just talk about that. No, I'm just playing. but no, we're in our mid-30s now. You think about like, all right, well, by the time we decide to retire, it won't fully take over our jobs. I think this is good information for our kids. Our kids who are looking for jobs, right? Or those teens right now that are out there in the 13, 15-year-old range, even the 20-year-old range, right? Looking for job stuff, right? Like start to realize that you need to prepare yourself to look for some of those roles that have pushed yourself back further, from the code itself, because eventually you may not be doing the code. Like it is a difference between I think it is, writing the code, and then when you're vetting and you got to sit there and you got to look at the code and you got to go over it and things like that. And you got to make sure it's right and all that stuff. I do think there's a possibility that things can make mistakes, because most of the time in ML, right, and AI, they're only going off of historical data, to be able to make their decisions. And if they only have historical stuff to go off of, I mean, who knows? Historical stuff could be wrong. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Historical stuff could be right. It could be some corruption up in there. I don't know. So at the end of the day, before you make it production, it's good to have that human person in there, maybe a couple of them, to be able to vet, right? And it can't just be Joe Smo. It got to be somebody who understands coding to a T, maybe even more of a senior person, right, to do that and stuff. So, I think y'all bring good points, man. So, one more. So what do y'all? All right. So I'll end it with this, right? I know we're getting close to the time, probably over, the time and stuff. But y'all ain't got nowhere to go. It's Corona season and stuff, man.
Yeah.
but what do y'all think? Whoever wants to answer first, something cool you want to see maybe happen in the future, right, with AI and ML. I know Bryan all scared and stuff. Tyrell not scared. He's like, yo, bring it, But anyways, whoever wants to go, what do y'all see as something being cool that y'all want to see in the future with artificial intelligence?
Oh well, I can. The one thing. Well, you all know my stance on it. But it would be kind of cool if, I didn't have to worry about, groceries or, and this is just actually it's a pretty lame example, but I don't like going to the grocery. I don't like going to the grocery store so much that it would be great if there was, we could develop a way to just recognize certain patterns of usage. How much soap I use, how much detergent I use, how much soy milk I drink on a regular basis, to pre-order, stock up, these specific materials by themselves without me even having to think about, oh, you know what, we need green peppers. Oh, you know what, we need onions. Oh, we need this seasoning, stuff like that. And this is actually, I feel like it's super easy to do now, even without some aspects of it, without even using things like machine learning or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, that's probably as far as I want to
Yeah.
go
I mean,
with it.
that's
Um,
that's a great point though. I mean, I hate grocery shopping, dog. I'm
yeah,
telling you right now, like I hate it with a passion. If I gotta go down each, you got people who be like, I'm gonna go down each aisle during the whole time. I'm like, yo, when I go in there, I'm like, dang, this is about to blow my life. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like this whole aspect of grocery shopping about to blow my life. I'm a minimalist to the full. I will eat a certain type of food all week just because I'm like, yo, I just don't even want to have to go grocery store. I don't have to do any of that stuff.
yeah.
But I think that that's a great point because soap, whatever it is, I mean, I think it is something that could be easy to go to do now,
Mhm.
but I think that it has to be like enough data, like historical pattern data that it
Yeah,
collects from
yeah.
you
And
over
that's
time.
the thing. That's why I'm like, I don't know if that would even be too, you know, MLE for lack of a better term. But maybe on a more serious note, things like which they do attempt to do now. They probably have a lot of machine learning and now predicting earthquakes,
Mm,
any type of weird climate change itself. Um, Hurricanes, tornadoes. One great thing would be, with all this data we have, try to predict when a tornado will happen. When will it
mm,
occur? So
right,
you can
right.
give people even more warning to get out. Get out of the way. You know what I mean? Things like that. Those are the things that I can think of that I feel would immediately be of benefit to the world in general.
Right, right.
Tsunami warnings, earthquake, all this stuff that they have now, and they actually do a pretty good job now, especially with tsunami warnings. But if we could just look at the patterns of weather um, and try to figure out, I mean, it'd be great if, I could look at a forecast of a week and actually say to myself, this is going to be the weather for the week versus
Right, right.
the first 1 day or 2 days is kind of accurate. Then the last, 5 or,
Right, right.
whatever days, it's just completely off and it
Right,
starts raining out of nowhere, or it's sunny and they told me it was going to rain. So
right, right. Or you plan
that,
an adult vacation like a year from now, right, to
yeah,
Disneyland or something like that. You like, man, we're about to plan a adult vacation, but
Will,
for sure that week that you pick is
yep,
going to be on point and the weather's going to be dope. Man, you know how much competition you're gonna have for that week, my nigga? I
yep,
mean, my dog.
that, that would be
Oh
perfect.
man, everybody gonna want that week, man.
Yep.
So yeah. What about you, Tyrell? Man, what's your thoughts on something that AI and ML could really help out with?
Um, I guess maybe like predicting or just catching diseases in their early stages.
Mm, right.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's a good one. Good one. Absolutely good one.
so I mean, yeah, I don't know where they get the historical data from, but I guess if you could like give samples of your blood every 6 months or every year, or other bodily fluids, whatever they need, and then they can sort of use all of this data to, I guess, to determine when people start deteriorating,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there be able to catch it early
I mean,
Right.
versus.
you might even be able to predict outbreaks. Um,
They
based
are
on
trying to
stuff
do
like
that.
yeah, that I don't see that as far fetched, but if you have enough data, you may be able to pinpoint certain outbreaks when they may occur, where you just have to. It's all about the data, man. You
Yeah.
just have to have
I
the
mean,
right
you just
data.
Yeah.
don't you don't know. The only thing about like say this coronavirus going on, right? Like they were able to predict that this is about to be an outbreak based off of like they saw some patterns going on. Like they have some companies that actually was saying, oh, like they were trying to get the word out like around December timeframe to everybody. And they were actually trying to do this. Like I have studies that show that right, they would like December, maybe even November, October, like some whatever it started occurring.
Mm.
But it was something slight that they saw out there in China, and it was like, yo, this right here is about to get real. And they and they started sending some information out for real, and nobody really was hearing them and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. You can probably pick out those outbreaks and stuff. I don't know. Even like with the stuff we said, right? There's this thing called the chaos theory, right, that I've read about before, and it's the whole thing about like the butterfly effect and all that
Mhm.
stuff, right? And like a butterfly that's in Texas, like with the flap of his wings or her wings or whatever it is, wings, I don't know how that works, but with the flap of their wings and stuff, you know, they could actually um, cause a tsunami that occurs out there in some other like country and stuff,
Mhm.
you know, but they're in Texas. But like that wind or however it moves, and then it impacts something else, it impacts something else, and you know, if that happens at the exact time, you know, then then it's the chaos there, just like the lottery, you know, like how can you really predict that, right? It's so chaotic, and you can't really predict like stuff that humans have this impact on, right? Because they could be emotional one day, they could be whatever another day or something like that, you know. And so it's hard to do that, you know. But I think all that stuff is possible, you know. I think that's real dope. Those ideas. My only idea that I have is dealing with autonomous vehicles, and I
Mhm.
think that I just want that to be taken over. I know that people have talked about it. I just want it to take over. People get all crazy and scared over it and stuff, you know. But
Right.
I'm like, yo, you could literally you you can make the prices go down from airplanes, right? Because of the fact that you have autonomous vehicles in place, where now I can travel from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I can just go to sleep. You know, I got a family of 5 or 6.
Mhm.
You know, I ain't trying to spend all this money for us to fly over to California and stuff. You
Yeah.
know, where I can take this car and we can all be watching movies. I can go to sleep. You know, kids can go to sleep, whatever it is. And now planes are looking ugly, so they're going to probably lower the prices so they can get better flights and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
all that stuff can occur, man. You know, shoot, you try and go to work, right? You know, you got an hour or something of traffic. You know, you can be working on your next business venture. You can be working on whatever it is, and you letting the car do all the work and stuff. You know, so I
Yep.
think it definitely makes a lot of changes. And I talked to y'all earlier about education, being able um, to being able to like look at the emotions of the students. Things are like digital as far as like the instructions and things like that. You know, being able to gauge the emotions of the students, being able to see if they're like, struggling or bored and stuff like that, but process and how to like change that. You know, I think that that's something that would be cool. You know, um, but yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and end it, man. This has been it probably has been over the amount of times that I usually do and stuff, you know. But no, I definitely appreciate y'all being on, man. You know, I'll just leave everybody with this dope data nugget. Uh, we we sit here and we always talk about how AI is going to take over, the robot is going to take over, all this stuff like that, you know. And my personal opinion, even if you hear them, you know, well, I don't know, excluding Brian, he's a little scared and stuff, you know, with it. But if you hear, you know, us and stuff, you know, we don't know, right? You know, and I think that it is right to say that AI will more so improve, you know, things and stuff. You can have where AI will become like a coding partner for programming, you know, where I think that software developers will use AI as like a coding pair and stuff like that to write better software and stuff as well. And so they can kind of piggyback off each other. So not really being scared of the machine, but embracing the machine. And programmers will really remain important and stuff. You know, the true value of the programmer is not knowing how to build it. It's really the value is in knowing what to build and stuff. And I think that the programmer will be able to they know what to build. And I mean, eventually, as you come up with patterns and things like that of knowing what to build, you know, I think that they will only be able to do whatever the human has been able to teach them and stuff. So that's just my thoughts and my my vision and stuff, you know, because I just make those bold statements like that, you know. But I thank you, Bryan and Tyrell, man, for being on the podcast, man. I appreciate it as always, and thank you for all the help you've given me over the years from a programming standpoint. You know, as not being a true programmer, you know, you've been able to help me out with that. So thank you, audience, for listening. As usual, you've been listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. And as always, your host, Dapper Data, you know, sends love and blessing to you all. You can reach me at Mr. Dapper Data on LinkedIn. You can reach me there on at Mr. Dapper Data on IG, on Twitter, any of the social media handles and stuff. It's Mr. Dapper Data. And Bryan and Tyrell, let them know where they can reach you all at. Is it the dark net? Is that it?
Yeah, a little bit. I can only be reached on Twitter at _OLOFT.
Okay. And Tyrell?
And I can be reached on Twitter at King_Flurry and LinkedIn Tyrell Flurry.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate y'all, man. And talk to y'all later.
Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion, with your host, Dapper Data.